Alright YouTube and fellow preppers, I am Geordie Prepper and this is the last update for the Check Your Preps campaign. It's been a much better success than the last campaign, which was in February this year. There's been a lot more engagement, I've seen a lot more videos, a hell of a lot more tweets and pictures and videos of what you guys are doing to check your preps. And that's really what it was all about. I've learned a lot myself from checking my preps, and I've learned a lot off you guys as well. I hope something I've covered as well has helped you as well. And I'm looking forward to February 2017 when we do the Check Your Preps campaign again. I'm going to put a lot more effort into the promotion of it, and I'm going to contact many YouTubers and preppers around about the time that the campaign's about a month before the next campaign starts, just to get everybody on board at the same time. So hopefully some channels will put up a Check Your Preps video and then they've got their audiences all checking the preps at the same time, and we're all using the hashtag, and we can basically see what each and everybody is doing with their preps, and we can learn so much from each other. And that was really what the campaign was about. So I was running a continuous experiment throughout the campaign regarding my torches and my batteries, and I had some interest on it, and I just thought I'd do an update on that. So we can see here the torch runtimes sheet which I've got. I want to put this into a spreadsheet and probably expand upon it in the future, especially if I get new torches and any new batteries, so that I can see what I'm getting out of them. So to continue on from the last time, and I'll leave a link to the last video up in the top right hand corner on a card, so you can watch the first part of the experiment and then I can continue on with this bit. So continuing on from the last time I was talking about it, in the LD41 AA torch I was running some Sanyo Eneloop XX batteries, and I have 8 of these cells which are divided into 2 groups of 4, and I got them specifically for the LD41. So group 1 of the cells, they lasted for 172 hours, and on the low the expected runtime for the LD41 is 160 hours. So I exceeded that quite a bit, and it was very comfortably that I exceeded it. And the torch was given the flashing warning signs for the low battery, and basically I just switched the torch off and I recharged the batteries. So that was a success. The second test I did with the second group of cells, I ran it for a week, so I got 172 hours out of it, 160 expected again. This was about 4 days ago. I took the batteries out of the torch, and to be honest, I forgot about the torch because I put it in a drawer. Because obviously shining a torch in the night, I'm not going to get much sleep, so I stuck it in a drawer and I kind of forgot about it. I took out the torch and I took out the cells, the batteries, and I put them in the charger. And it seems like with the TK35, the LD41 also suffers from some unbalanced discharging and how it takes the charge from the cells. 2 of the cells were showing up as null, which means basically that they have to come up to a certain voltage before the charger will actually charge it. In the chargers that I've got though, they do have a function for very low voltage cells, which basically just trickle charges them up to the correct voltage, and then they go up to the step up to the milliamp hours that you've set to charge the batteries at. So 2 of the cells were showing as null, and I had to wait until they got up to voltage. And 2 were low in voltage, but they were both reading the equal amount, so 2 of them were showing up as 0.89 volts each. So initial observation from the LD41, even though I'd forgotten that I was running it and I came to it late, it showed that potentially the LD41 is drawing energy from the cells in it unevenly. So I'm not sure the circuitry and the programming that they've put into the torch itself, but what it would appear is that it treats 2 cells on one side of the bank and 2 cells on the opposite side, treats them separately, and I think what it tries to do is it tries to balance the amount it's taken from either side, and I think for the most part it probably does that very well. Obviously you've got to remember that torches and the cells that you put in especially. So if we look at the cells, not every cell that you have it runs at the exact milliamp hours out of each other. So I've got cells that vary by 100 milliamps. Some only vary by a very little bit at the end of the charge, but I think what's important is that you put cells that are exactly the same type, and if you try to balance and match your cells up so that you're getting the same milliamp hours out of them consistently, and then you use them in the equipment and you try to balance the cells in the torches very well, and then I think that you're going to get a much better runtime, and it's going to end that when the cells run low, they're going to be pretty much an equal footing each time. So that's obviously something to look out for. I was doing, alongside these tests on the LT41, I was doing tests on the TK35 at the same time, obviously. Last time I'd already ran some tests with some cells, and I found that it was a very unequal discharge from the cells. One of them was at 1.56 volts, the other was at 2.25 volts, and I stated in the notes there that the next test I was going to run it for 1 week maximum, and then halfway through I was going to swap the cells in the caddy. So I did that with this test here. It was 7 days runtime, 168 hours, and the cells were switched halfway point, and when I took the cells out though, the voltage was lower than the previous test. It was at 1.54 volts, and that was each cell. So one of the cells was around about the same at 1.56. One of them was at 2.25. But when I swapped the cells halfway through, they both came out at 1.54 volts. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there. It could be a variation in the cells, the milliamp hours that they contain. I'm not sure. But they both came out at the similar voltage, but they were at a much lower volt. They were around about the same voltage as what the previous cell came out of on one side of the caddy. I also tested on the TK35 because I'd heard that it could run off one battery. I wasn't able to replicate that with my torch. I put a cell in one side of the caddy, tried to turn it on, nothing happened. I put the cell in the opposite side of the caddy. I tried to turn the torch on, and again nothing happened. So I'm not exactly sure where I saw that, or if it was in fact for the TK35, but just to be aware that if you do have this torch, then it needs both cells in there. The next test that I did was with some protected cells. These were 225 milliamp hour cells, and I was able to get 7 days runtime out of them, and I stopped it at 1 week. The cell's protection circuit had tripped when I went to check on them. So, I checked them on 7 days, and it was slightly past it when the actual protection circuit tripped. So I got 7+ days out of the cells, which was expected. The protection circuit tripped on one of the cells in the TK35, then it means that the torch goes off. So when I put the cells in the charger, they were actually at very equal voltages, to put 2.56 volts each, and that told me that the protection circuits would have tripped at pretty much exactly the same time. So the cells then took 11 hours to charge at 250 milliamp hours per hour was the charging rate, which gave me 2,750 milliamp hours. So I'm able to get 500 milliamp hours more on each cell than what they're rated for, and these are very good quality protected cells. So this experiment has taught me a lot of things about my torches, especially about the cells that I use in particular, and it's changed my attitude towards protected cells and unprotected cells. And I'm going to cover this in a completely new video. I've previously talked about charging and discharging cells and how I do it and what I look out for, etc. But this test during Check Your Prep months has really changed my entire, the way that I go about charging my cells and discharging them especially, and how long I'm going to run the torches for. If I'm going to run them constantly, then I'm actually going to put protected cells in. Beforehand, I couldn't really see a use for protected cells because I've always recommended that people use unprotected. The reason for this was that the torch is obviously not going to go out. There's no protection circuit there where if you're running the torch at a very high setting, it could unexpectedly trip the protection circuit and your torch is dead, basically. If you haven't got a means to then recharge the cells, then you basically can't reset the protection circuit. So that was always my basis for using unprotected cells. They're simply a lot safer. Running this test, however, it's shown me that to protect the unprotected cells, you need to be careful about running the torches continuously. And therefore, if you're going to run them continuously 24/7, the best cells that I'm going to recommend in my next video is to be protected cells. Then in that case, you're not running them too low voltage. Protected cells are also usually at a lower milliamp hour, or the cells that I've got are a lower milliamp hour, so those cells are obviously going to be much easier to charge as well. The other thing is that what I'm going to recommend for protected cells is that obviously you use the exact same type with each other, and that you condition them beforehand, all that usual stuff. For the unprotected cells, I'm going to recommend for activities where you could be at high risk, so and you're going to be in an area which is completely devoid of light, and basically you simply don't want to be in the situation where the torch runs out and just stops completely, which could happen with a protected cell. So for high risk activities and activities where you're going to be perhaps in the dark for a very long time, so if you cave in, if you just basically, or if you're going out on the night time somewhere and you're going in unequal ground, very rocky or potentially hazardous ground, then I would suggest using unprotected cells, because you simply just don't want the light that you're dependent on just cutting out unexpectedly. So yeah, I mean, this test was really worthwhile doing. I had some interest on it, so I hope this update has given you what you were looking for on the update. Like I said, I'll be doing a whole brand new episode about charging and discharging, and as I said in a previous video, I think bugging in, you can be very technological and very, you can have equipment like boys' toys, or if you want to call it that. I think bugging in can be a very technological thing that you do, whereas bugging out, you can rely on nature and what it gives you. So my recommendations have changed. I mean, I found a use for my protected cells because of this experiment, and that's what Check Your Preps was all about. Just to sum up Check Your Preps campaign, it was just about learning from each other, learning about your own preps, learning about yourself. Checking your preps wasn't just about checking your equipment and everything like that, checking your food. It was also, to give some thought about yourself. I don't think I really pushed that aspect of it very much, but it's something that I'm going to be doing in the next Check Your Preps campaign, which will be running in February 2017. I mean, the amount of stuff that I've seen, you guys retweeting and, putting up pictures, putting up videos, it's really inspired me, to not only put more videos up on my channel and to cover my preps and to give you guys an idea of what I'm doing, but it's just it's spurred me on, with the amount of knowledge that I've gained, and just to see what you guys are doing with your preps has been inspirational. So thank you to everyone who contributed videos. They're in the playlist. If you made a video and I haven't added it to the playlist, just link it below in the comments and I'll add it, and or you can send me a private message with it on if you want. And let's just be prepared. And this is Geordie Prepper signing out, and I'll see you next time.